Welcome to the Spiritual Deep Dive in 5 podcast. So glad you could join us to spend some time reflecting on God and His love for each of us today. Make sure to like this video, hit the subscribe button, ring that bell. That way you'll never miss out on any of our content. The Spiritual Deep Dive podcast is posted Monday through Friday by Christ Church of Flagstaff here in Flagstaff, Arizona. And you can find more information about our church online at ccof.church. Thank you so much for watching, and we are so excited to see what God is going to do in your life because you are committed to spending time with Him. Hey, glad you're here. We are in Romans 12 again. We're getting close to the end of this chapter, and in verse 11, we're in the middle of 5 verses in which there are 13 exhortations, 13 challenges, statements, imperatives of action. And these statements are ones that you and I are to live. And here, let me just read the ones we're in the middle of. Never, verse 11, be lacking in zeal, but keep your spiritual fervor, serving the Lord. Be joyful in hope, patient in affliction. Well, that's going to be hard to do, Chris. Faithful in prayer, share with the Lord's people who are in need. Practice hospitality. You see what I mean? There's a whole bunch of these right here in the middle of Romans 12 where Paul is saying to the believers in a church just like ours many years ago that there are just things that make sense. They're just the best way to live life. They're the way to do what verse 1 calls our spiritual acts of worship, being a living sacrifice. And I think it's worth mentioning for all of you English grammar friends out there is that all of these participles begin with this, beginning with this clause where we're at right here, verse 11. They're all present continuous. I mean, we always do them. There's not what God is seeking. What Paul's trying to explain here is that being patient in affliction, that's not a one-time event. He doesn't say, hey, be patient in affliction once, be joyful in hope once, be faithful in prayer that one day when it's really cloudy and you're kind of mopey anyway. So be prayerful, check that box, and then you never have to do it again. No, the idea of it being, even the grammar he's using is what God seeks in the believer, and you and I. It's not just a single worthy act, but a continuing quality of life. And when we live that life, we're transformed. Think of it this way. What brings you joy? What brings you joy? Do these kind of things bring you joy? Practicing hospitality, sharing with other believers who are in need. I mean, if you've ever done that, you probably have some joy in that moment. When you were faithful in prayer, be joyful in hope, patient in affliction. Is there a way to find joy in affliction? Well, it sure seems like it. But when I'm worried in affliction, when I'm impatient, when I'm trying to fix it, there's no joy. There's just worry and angst. But if I can, through the power of the Holy Spirit, be transformed by the renewing of my mind, changing my perspective on something like affliction, keeping my spiritual fervor, serving the Lord, brings you joy. These are the things that can bring us joy. And you go, well, I haven't had joy in affliction. That's my point. Were you patient in that affliction? Were you staying close to God? Were you serving others? Were you conforming to what the world does in affliction, which is to complain or try to win? Does helping others bring you joy? You know, one of the things interesting in the world that Paul wrote this, ancient Christians and ancient Jews both would have thought that they would have been shocked that there were people in need in a particular city or church while other people weren't in need. This idea that in Flagstaff, we have both well-to-do and hungry followers of Jesus in the same city, that would have shocked the ancient Jews and Christians, but it would have been the norm for the ancient pagans, the ancient Romans. It was the norm. Some were senators, some were slaves. Not in the church. What have you found joy in helping make sure there were no hungry followers of Jesus, no hungry people at all in this city? What can you do today? How can you live this continuing quality of life that we see here in these short, quick, but powerful and important instructions.